summit, and on the final day, the final plenary, we've heard over the last few days a whole series of announcements of what action is taking place around the world. And I thought I'd just give you a few quick takeaways, because a lot of stuff that's talked here, that's been spoken here over the last few days, are really relevant to Australia right now. What does this mean for our members? What does this mean for the politics and policy in Australia? What does this mean for the transition to the zero net emissions economy that we're heading headlong towards? So first, here's some of the key takeaways. One of the most obvious things that came out in the last few days was that there is pressure coming to raise ambition. We need to address the climate change challenge, but we need more ambition from the parties to the agreement and all the key stakeholders involved. This is going to put increasing pressure on countries like Australia, where there's obvious disconnect between the current state of where the policies and the missions are and where it needs to get to. And this has been driven a lot by many of the stories from the jurisdictions that have been impacted by major events, like we're in California now, the massive fires that we've had. We had the Prime Minister of Barbados talk about how in the Caribbean the extreme weather events are smashing their economy. We've got major storms and cyclonic events happening right at the moment. Part of the thing that we're also seeing here is we're seeing more demonstration of business and finance here in significant numbers. And one of the things that's been really strongly coming through is the need for carbon pricing. In Australia, it's not always easy to say those two words, but here it's talked about all the time. The business case for carbon pricing is being made, the increasing number of companies that use it in their investment decisions across different geographies, and also the jurisdictions that are using carbon pricing as a key policy instrument. Not the only policy instrument, but a key policy instrument to be able to put a suite of policies in place to achieve emissions reduction. So as carbon pricing starts kicking in, that drives another key thing that's come out of this summit, and that is how the curve is being bent to drive emissions reduction. To bend the curve, one of the things that the great Christiana Figueres outlined was how exponential use of different types of, exponential trends that are taking place at the moment need to carry on through. So the exponential trend in the deployment of wind and solar and electric vehicles, but also things like green financing and green bonds. The trends in companies adopting science-based targets and all those different exponential trends that need to be carried through. We're seeing a lot of action at scale taking place at the moment, and if you plot those forward, the optimism of Christiana Figueres is saying that this is something that can be achieved. So that exponential growth and some of the stories around the technology deployment has been very significant. We're also seeing a really big stake in the ground by some of the major players. Clearly California, with its size of economy, has made a number of significant announcements, but also in strong positioning here, the Chinese have also been very strong about what they're doing to transform their economy. And with that becomes a lot of international engagement and cross-border collaboration, and economic trade and investment decisions are taking place. So in the context of all the developments that are going to be happening in trade and aid and diplomacy across borders, one of the things that's critical for Australia to be actively involved in is how the rules around the market mechanisms play out in Article 6. How the rules play out are going to be very important for how Australia optimises our position as international markets evolve. We need to be part of the global market mechanisms, and we need to be part of the trade in emissions for us to be able to meet our compliance costs as an economy at lowest cost, but also to capitalise on the potential for export of credits and export of Australian carbon development project expertise into a global market which is going to be in demand. And to help to drive that is going to be our finance and investment sector. The finance and investors are catalysts for sustainable development. We here have made a number of significant announcements. The investor agenda, bringing trillions of dollars that needs to be unlocked into the low carbon finance space. And so a very big presence for finance investment here as well. Also, the other thing that's been really significant here, of course, it's the state of California holding this event in Trump's America, is the role of subnationals. And we were lucky and fortunate to have states represented at the Carbon Market Institute dinner that we ran here, the Australian Climate Action Dinner. We had the Queensland Environment Minister, the South Australian Environment Minister, and representative from the Victorian government talk about what is actually happening at the state level. And I think we need to really ramp up and support the states in their development of the economic transition and the activity that's taking place in those states, as in many other parts of the world. And one of those things, when you look at somewhere like Queensland or New South Wales, or even Western Australia, is the role that we can play in the carbon farming, and because forests are really a critical part of the climate solution. And here some of the statements have been made, it's the forgotten solution, where we address forest cover, and we can use this in Australia, our expertise in forest management and the generation of credits out of forests. I think it's going to be a very significant opportunity. And finally, I suppose, just to bring it all down to what is going to be required for this transition to take place. One of my key takeaways, and was fortunate enough to be able to put this message into the Talanoa that was held by, we were invited by the Governor and the Prime Minister of Fiji to participate in. The key message I had was, I think it's going to be critical that across all different stakeholder groups we build capacity. We've got to be able to understand the business case to address climate change. We've got to build capacity within the political class, particularly the bureaucrats, the regulators, financiers, the technology providers and civil society, to speak the same language. So in Australia, our collective efforts are going to be enhanced by our ability to play a key role in raising our knowledge. And from CMI's point of view, that's a core part of our agenda. So I look forward to bringing some of this knowledge back to you over the next few weeks. Thanks.